Have you ever felt like your past was just too messy, too broken, too complicated for God to use? Let me tell you, God has a way of turning our greatest failures into his greatest triumphs. In Matthew chapter 1, in the genealogy of Yeshua, we see something fascinating that the Lord was very deliberate about communicating. In the genealogy, which I know most of us are bored by these things, from Abraham to Joseph, there are 40 fathers mentioned, but there aren't 40 mothers mentioned. Among all the mothers in the royal line of Messiah, the Lord mentions only 4 specific mothers, plus Miriam or Mary. The Lord doesn't mention the matriarchs that we mention in our blessings, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. No, the only 4 matriarchs the Lord mentions are Tamar, Rahab, Ruth, and Bathsheba. These aren't the women you'd expect to see on center stage. Their stories are messy, their reputations are complicated, and their histories are full of pain and struggle. But God doesn't hide their stories. Instead, he puts a spotlight on them. Think about it. God didn't have to mention Tamar, whose story of injustice and scandal in Genesis 38 makes us squirm. No one really preaches that one. He didn't need to highlight Rahab the prostitute from Jericho. He could have skipped over Ruth, a Moabite outsider. She may be the most noteworthy of the bunch, but she wasn't even Jewish. And of course, he could have avoided mentioning Bathsheba, whose introduction as the wife of Uriah is a reminder of David's greatest failures. The Lord didn't have to mention them. The genealogy would have worked just fine without them. In fact, if all the mothers in the royal line had been included, well, those 4 could have been more seamlessly blended in, their stories quietly hidden among the others. But by mentioning only those 4, the Lord is making a bold and beautiful point. He doesn't shy away from the broken, the messy, or the misunderstood. He redeems them and elevates them. He's not embarrassed by them. He chose these women, not just to be part of Yeshua's lineage, but to show us something profound. Our past doesn't disqualify us. It's through their stories of pain and redemption and faith that God magnified his name. God is showing us that your darkest moments, the parts of your history you'd rather hide, are not obstacles to his purposes in you and through you. Quite the opposite. They are opportunities for his glory to shine. The religious may write you off, but the Lord never does. Tamar's determination, Rahab's faith, Ruth's loyalty, and Bathsheba's resilience are the threads that God used to weave his redemptive plan. And he's doing the same in your life. Your failures, your struggles, your regrets, none of it is wasted in God's hands. He heals, he restores, and he uses you in ways you could never imagine. He's not ashamed of you. He holds you up as one of his greatest accomplishments. So let me challenge you today. Stop letting your past define you. Instead, let it magnify God's grace. Trust that he's not just able to use you despite your history. He's using you through it. The very things you think disqualify you are what he can use to reach and heal others. So step into his purpose for your life with boldness, knowing that he has a plan and he's working all things together for his glory. Go out today and walk in confidence in him, knowing that God's not finished with you yet. In fact, he's just getting started.